For years, Anita Baker's soulful voice captivated the world, but behind the music was an unsettling truth. The songstress's life hasn't been an easy one. Rather, it's a complicated story of pain, perseverance, and redemption. But finally, she has decided to break her silence. Join us as we uncover the real truth about Anita and how it influenced her career. The turbulent life of Anita Baker. Anita Denise Baker, renowned for her soulful and captivating voice, was born on January 26, 1958. Her early life, marked by love, loss, and unexpected revelations, profoundly shaped the emotional depth she later poured into her music. Raised in Detroit, Anita spent the first 12 years of her life under the care of a couple named Granville Lewis, a minister, and his wife, Mary. From a young age, she believed the Lewises were her grandparents, a belief that defined her understanding of family and identity. Within their home, she was surrounded by warmth and affection, building a deep connection with the Lewis family's daughters, whom she considered her sisters. This loving and seemingly ordinary childhood fostered a sense of belonging that anchored her during life's challenges. However, the stability of Anita's early years shattered when both Granville and Mary Lewis passed away in succession. Their passing devastated her, stripping away the only parental figures she had ever known. In the wake of their loss, a series of unexpected truths emerged, changing the life Anita had known. She discovered that Granville and Mary were not her grandparents, nor were they biologically related to her at all. It turned out that her biological mother was just 16 years old when Anita was born. Faced with the responsibilities of raising a child while still a child herself, she made the agonizing decision to leave Anita on the Lewis's doorstep, trusting they could provide the care and love she could not. Her father, meanwhile, was entirely absent from her life. The revelation of her origins weighed heavily on Anita, leaving her to cope with feelings of abandonment and confusion. Processing the truth proved challenging, but over time, she began to understand the reason for her mother's decision. Reflecting on those circumstances in later interviews, Anita acknowledged her mother's struggles and youthful vulnerability. In an attempt to reconcile her emotions, she also came to terms with the strange nature of her upbringing. She often described being raised in a web of close-knit family, friends who, despite their good intentions, never fully explained the intricate connections between them. The result was a loving but weird environment filled with unanswered questions, and conversations about family dynamics were avoided. Anita would later admit that even as an adult, she could not fully piece together the puzzle of her early life. Still, her story continued to evolve after the passing of the Lewises. In the midst of the confusion, Anita learned that Lois Landry, a woman she had always considered her older sister, was in fact her aunt. This revelation coincided with a period of tremendous emotional strain. Lois and her husband, recognizing Anita's need for stability, legally adopted her, taking on the role of her parents and offering her a renewed sense of home. For Anita, this marked a new beginning, one defined by gratitude and profound respect for Lois, whom she affectionately referred to as her Earth Mother. Lois became a guiding light in Anita's life, helping her through trying times while providing the structure and support she needed. Yet even in this newfound stability, challenges persisted. Anita's world was disrupted once more when her biological mother unexpectedly reappeared, igniting a storm of emotions she was unprepared to face. The encounter stirred painful questions and unresolved feelings, leaving Anita to confront the complex importance of her origins. Years later, she reflected on that moment as a turning point, which she believes set the stage for struggles that would surface in her teenage years. The confusion and emotional weight had a strong impact. While working at Lois's beauty salon, Anita began to exhibit signs of rebellion, resisting the rules that defined her new family. Her frustrations and inner problems led to difficulties at school, resulting in her expulsion from several high schools. These were formative, turbulent years that tested her spirit, but even then, her resilience began to shine through.
It's an out-of-body experience. It really is. You go someplace else. And when the song is over, you come back.
Despite her struggles, Anita's passion for music remained constant. Determined to pursue her dream, she began performing with various bands across Detroit. One group, Chapter 8, marked the start of her professional journey. With Chapter 8, Anita showcased her extraordinary vocal talent, earning recognition and a devoted following. The group's potential seemed boundless as they secured a record deal, toured across the United States, and appeared poised for success. However, fate intervened when the label merged into Arista Records, leading to the group's unexpected disbandment. The setback was a crushing blow. For a time, Anita was forced to step away from music entirely, taking on everyday jobs to make ends meet. She worked as a cook, waitress, and receptionist, doing whatever it took to survive. But throughout it all, her love for music never faded. Deep within her remained a determination to rise again, to channel her experiences into the artistry that would one day make her a legend. The path she walked was anything but smooth, but it was within the challenges that Anita discovered the power of her emotions. These experiences ultimately infused her music with raw, unmistakable authenticity, and so she set out to chase her dreams, unaware that fate was about to intervene. Becoming a star. Anita Baker's journey began with a daring choice, one that would define the rest of her life. She packed up her dreams, left behind familiar ground, and headed for Los Angeles in search of a new beginning. Alone in a new city but determined, Anita settled into her modest apartment. By a stroke of luck, the apartment next door housed a group of young artists on the brink of greatness. Future R&B legends New Edition. Surrounded by music and creativity, Anita's determination grew stronger. She clung to her love for music, refusing to let go of the dream she carried with her to the City of Angels. What she couldn't know then was that her persistence and resilience were about to set her on a path to stardom. And fortunately, in 1983, Anita's life took a new turn when she signed her first solo contract with Beverly Glenn Music. The deal led to the release of her debut album, The Songstress, marking her official entry into the music industry. But the road forward was anything but smooth. What should have been a celebratory launch quickly soured as Anita realized the contract she'd signed was far from favorable. Instead of succumbing to frustration, she stood her ground and fought for her rights. Her resolve was unshakable. She challenged the industry's norms, refusing to settle for anything less than she deserved. This unwavering self-advocacy earned her detractors, with critics labeling her as difficult. Still, Anita refused to compromise her values. Her drive to take control of her career, regardless of outside opinion, ultimately paid off when she managed to free herself from the restrictive deal.
And one of the bands was called Chapter 8. We recorded an album for Areola Records back in '79, which brought us out here to a small club.
That turning point led Anita to Elektra Records, where she gained not only a contract, but also the creative freedom she had fought so hard to secure. With her second album, Rapture, released in 1986, she was no longer just a performer, but an architect of her own success. As executive producer, Anita took an active role behind the scenes, pouring herself into the creation of the album. Alongside her writing contributions, her powerful, soulful vocals shined brighter than ever. Anchored by the hit single Sweet Love, the album resonated deeply with audiences, propelling Anita into the spotlight. Rapture went past 8 million sales worldwide, a result of her artistry and vision. Night after night, Anita graced stages across the country, captivating audiences and expanding her devoted fan base with every performance. It was during this period that Anita experienced an unexpected phase in her personal life. During one of her 1986 shows, she caught the attention of Walter Bridgeforth, a real estate developer who would become a significant figure in her life. Although their first meeting was casual and ordinary, it hinted at the chemistry that would follow. Walter approached Anita after the performance with a lighthearted remark. He had 6 sisters and had bought each of them her album, and Anita replied that for 6 albums he could get a hug. After their brief talk, Walter handed her his number, but neither of them anticipated what would happen next. Anita reached out to him, first casually, then habitually, calling him every night until it became impossible to ignore their connection. Nevertheless, their relationship wasn't without its struggles. Walter at the time was entangled in an unstable 5-year relationship with another woman, a reality Anita couldn't ignore. She found herself in a painful and complicated position, deeply invested in someone whose attention was divided. She was just a side piece, and the emotional toll of this realization was heavy. There were nights when Anita would call Walter, only to hear him dismissively say that he's got company, leaving her to confront the harsh truth of where she stood. For a woman who demanded so much of herself in her career, Anita's patience in this personal struggle seemed at odds with the strength she exuded elsewhere. Eventually, the emotional weight became too much to bear. Anita needed answers, and she needed clarity. With a bold move, she decided to put her feelings on the line. She bought a card, wrote a heartfelt message, and handed Walter the ultimatum that had been building inside her. In the message, Anita expressed her love for Walter. She also explained that she would respect his decision if he didn't want her and not bother him anymore. For Anita, it was a moment of liberation. She was done waiting and ready to move forward no matter the outcome. Immediately after, she redirected her focus to her career, flying to New York for a performance at the iconic Radio City Music Hall. On the eve of her big show, a call came through to her hotel room. Walter was on the line, but Anita refused to answer. She had reached her breaking point, determined not to fall back into a cycle of uncertainty. Walter, however, was relentless. He called every 10 minutes, refusing to let her go without being heard. Finally, a message came through. The other relationship was over, and he would be on a plane to New York the very next day. Anita couldn't ignore the gravity of his words. After careful thought, she took the call that would change everything. By the end of their conversation, they were no longer unsure. The uncertainty was gone, replaced by the promise of a real, committed relationship. Their connection now had a clear path forward. 2 years later, in 1988, Anita and Walter made it official. They married, solidifying a bond that had endured turbulence and uncertainty, but ultimately brought them both to a place of clarity and commitment. For Anita, the journey with Walter mirrored the same strength and resolve she brought to her career, an ability to confront difficulties, demand what she deserved, and never settle for less. Unknown to Anita, her troubles were far from over. Standing strong. In the late 1980s, Anita's career soared to new heights. Her album, Giving You the Best That I Got, became an undeniable success, captivating audiences and earning her 3 Grammy Awards. This recognition marked her place among the greats in the music industry. During this time, she also embarked on a highly anticipated tour with the celebrated Luther Vandross. Fans expected magic from these two powerhouse vocalists collaborating. However, behind the scenes, the story was far from harmonious. Tensions between Anita and Luther began to develop, their growing feud reported widely by the media. The situation reportedly escalated during a tour stop at Boston Garden. It was said that the venue had to take extraordinary measures, even erecting curtains backstage to physically separate the two stars. Anita's strong personality became a focal point of the narrative, with stories suggesting her frustrations were obvious. From her bandmates to flight attendants, even label executives reportedly felt the brunt of her sharp moods. At the time, Anita's team attempted to clarify her behavior, explaining her particular need for personal space.
And oh my God, if something happens to this, I'm nobody. That's a horrible way to feel. It's not healthy.
Her preference had always been to surround herself with a small, trusted group backstage, an environment where she could focus and feel comfortable. While those outside her circle might have misread this need as disinterest, the truth behind her actions remained unknown to the public. Anita was navigating an intensely personal struggle during this tour. She was actually pregnant. Though she didn't share this with the world until much later, the hormonal fluctuations and physical toll of the pregnancy could have contributed to her unpredictable moods. Tragically, the emotional burden only deepened when she suffered a miscarriage. This devastating loss, coupled with the pressure of performing night after night, cast a heavy shadow over what should have been a triumphant chapter of her career. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be Anita's last experience with such heartbreak. In 1990, as she poured herself into her craft while working on her upcoming album Compositions, life delivered another crushing blow. She had a second miscarriage. This loss came at a time when she had already committed to an extensive tour schedule. But in spite of her grief, Anita had to push forward. Night after night, she performed for her fans, even as her emotional strength frayed at the edges. When she became overwhelmed, she pleaded with her management to allow her to take a break, but instead of granting her the rest she desperately needed, the demands only increased. More tour dates were added, stretching her to her breaking point. By January 1991, the strain reached its peak during a stop in Chicago. At the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, Anita's mental and emotional exhaustion overwhelmed her. A detail that might seem insignificant to many, a hotel room's organization became a tipping point for her breakdown. Anita later revealed in an interview that she relied on strict routines to maintain a sense of control while on the road. Spending over 200 days a year in unfamiliar spaces meant that her mental well-being depended on small, comforting consistencies. Walking into her hotel suite that day, she found everything arranged on the left side of the entryway, completely distorting the balance she wanted. Disoriented and unable to calm herself, Anita began to cry uncontrollably, walking in circles as the weight of everything she'd been carrying crashed down on her. Thankfully, Anita's husband was by her side during this difficult moment. Recognizing the severity of her distress, he stepped in and made a decision for her well-being. Without hesitation, he canceled the remaining dates and brought Anita home to Michigan, where she could rest and recover away from the demands of the spotlight. It was a necessary pause for a woman who had been pushing herself beyond her limits, both physically and emotionally. The following year brought a new glimmer of hope. In 1992, Anita learned she was pregnant once again. This time, her doctors recommended a surgical procedure to increase her chances of carrying the baby to term. Though it offered a solution, the procedure required strict restrictions on her daily life, limiting her ability to work on music or perform. For someone as driven as Anita, the sacrifices were difficult, but the results proved worth it. In January 1993, she gave birth to her son, Walter Jr., a moment that marked a joyful part of her life. After years of emotional hardship, Anita embraced motherhood with renewed hope and gratitude. Her family continued to grow when, only a few months later, Anita discovered she was pregnant again. In May 1994, she welcomed her second son, Edward. For Anita, this period of her life was defined by joy, fulfillment, and a deep sense of purpose. Yet even as her role as a mother became her primary focus, her passion for music remained an indelible part of who she was. That same year, she released her fifth studio album, Rhythm of Love. The project reflected her evolution both as an artist and as a woman, blending the richness of her personal experiences with her deep connection to music. As her family grew, Anita made a choice to step back from the music industry to prioritize her children and her marriage. For someone so deeply embedded in the spotlight, this decision sparked questions. While fans speculated about her future, Anita knew the answer. This was not an end, but rather a pause. Her family needed her, and she recognized the importance of being present for the moments that mattered most. Her love for music had always been a constant, and she trusted that it would call her back when the time was right. Anita's story during these years reveals a journey of profound highs and heartbreaking lows. At the height of her fame, she weathered personal tragedy, relentless pressure, and an industry that often overlooked the toll such demands could take on an artist.
I even, tried putting a studio in my home, but they became my focal point. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yet through it all, she found strength in family, resilience in her struggles, and joy in motherhood. The balance she sought during those chaotic years became clearer as she embraced the role of mother and allowed herself the time to heal. Stepping back from the demands of her career wasn't about walking away. It was about preserving the parts of herself that mattered most. Anita knew that music would always remain a part of her soul, but for that time, her focus was on raising her sons and nurturing her marriage, building a life grounded in love, stability, and purpose. It was a choice that reflected not only her growth as a woman, but also her understanding of what truly defined success. Sadly, her troubles only seemed to add up. Marriage or music? Finally, when the music came calling, Anita poured her heart into it, intent on delivering something extraordinary. The fear of falling short, however, weighed heavily on her. The music industry's unrelenting pace and revolving talent heightened these fears. For Anita, failure meant being overshadowed and left behind. She wanted more than just recognition. Her vision was to produce music that left a significant, lasting mark. This mounting pressure intersected with an equally demanding chapter in her personal life. Anita's struggles intensified when her family faced overwhelming health challenges. Her foster mother, Lois, whom she referred to as her Earth Mother, battled with Alzheimer's. This came with other family health issues that demanded her immediate presence. Unable to ignore these realities, Anita decided to remain closer to home, a decision rooted in love and obligation. She transformed her home into a makeshift studio in order to keep her creative pursuits alive in the midst of the chaos. Yet, the balance proved elusive. Recording sessions were often interrupted by urgent calls from hospitals, pulling her back into the harsh realities of caregiving. The successive losses of her Earth Mother, adoptive father, and birth mother left Anita caught in a relentless cycle of grief. Each funeral was followed by an attempt to return to work, only to face yet another heartbreak. The weight of these tragedies threatened to derail her, but Anita carried on, trying to navigate through the sorrow while keeping her music alive. Somewhere in the storm of family responsibilities, Anita faced additional strain in her marriage and motherhood. Her children needed her more than ever, while the relationship with her husband began to fracture. The pressures of marriage and family life became increasingly difficult to manage, leading her to file for divorce. This decision, however, was not the end of their story. Somehow, Anita and her husband decided to try therapy, providing a space for reconciliation. Together, they worked through their issues, rebuilding the foundation of their relationship. This renewed stability at home allowed Anita to reclaim a sense of focus and prepare for the next chapter of her professional life. With her family life regaining balance, Anita returned to her music with newfound determination. Recognizing the need for a healthier work-life balance, she brought on a manager who understood her priorities. This partnership gave Anita the opportunity to revive her career without sacrificing her role as a mother. Touring became possible again, supported by her husband, who took on greater responsibilities at home, including managing the family's new IHOP restaurant in Detroit. These changes allowed Anita to step back into the spotlight, confident that her family was being cared for. In 2004, Anita ended a decade-long hiatus from releasing albums with her comeback record, My Everything, released through Blue Note Records. The album was met with excitement and praise, offering fans a long-awaited return to her soulful sound. A year later, she followed this success with a Christmas album, further delighting her audience. Still, the personal struggles continued to cast shadows over her professional achievements. Her marriage with Walter unraveled once again, and this time, the separation became final. The divorce brought complications, particularly concerning Anita's music royalties. Walter was awarded 50% of the royalties from two of her most successful albums, Giving You the Best That I Got and Rhythm of Love.
You know, I'm not a perfect person, but you do the best you can, for your babies. They didn't ask.
Disputes emerged when Walter questioned a royalty payment, prompting legal intervention. A court-appointed music contract expert carefully reviewed the financial details, consulting record companies to determine the rightful amounts. The outcome was a settlement that both parties accepted, allowing Anita to close this chapter and focus fully on her music. With her personal battles behind her, Anita continued to demonstrate her artistry and determination. Her rendition of Tyrese's Lately showcased her timeless vocal prowess, earning her a Grammy nomination. Though intended for her album Only Forever, the song's success did not lead to the release of the full record, leaving her devoted fans eagerly awaiting its completion. In 2018, Anita made headlines once again when she announced her retirement from touring. The farewell tour was her way of expressing gratitude to her loyal fans, marking the summary of decades in the spotlight. However, in 2019, she defied expectations by signing on for a Las Vegas residency. Rather than walking away from performing, Anita embraced a more intimate setting without the physical and emotional demands of constant travel. This residency indicated a new phase, one that offered stability while allowing her to continue sharing her music. Today, Anita Baker's legacy shines as one of tenacity, distinct artistry, and unwavering dedication. With 8 Grammy Awards and a collection of platinum albums, her influence remains etched into the fabric of the music industry. Her journey is not merely defined by success, but by the countless obstacles she overcame, from personal loss and marital challenges to the pressures of an unforgiving industry. As fans look back on her illustrious career, Anita Baker's story becomes more than a chronicle of achievements. It's a portrait of a woman who faced life's heaviest burdens with grace and strong will. Her music, imbued with emotion and authenticity, continues to inspire, while her journey serves as a powerful reminder of the strength it takes to overcome life's darkest moments. Through it all, Anita remains an artist who turned life's trials into a legacy that will be celebrated for years to come. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.